Hi guys, Sci-Fi Recapped here. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today, I'm gonna explain a 2015 American action and fantasy movie called The Last Witch Hunter. The movie begins with Calder and his allies called Axe and Cross, who are on their journey to seek out the Witch Queen in the Cursed Woods. Upon arrival at the center, the Queen confronts them and summons the undead to attack them. A fight ensues between them while Calder silently battles the Witch Queen in a 1 versus 1 fight. He sets the woods on fire and manages to defeat the Queen, stabbing her chest with the burning blade. However, before she perishes, she curses Calder with immortality, so that he may always live with his suffering. 800 years later, after the Great War, Calder is seen on a plain where he realizes that the weather is under the influence of magic. He walks through the cabin and finds a young witch who keeps some ancient runes that cause the storm. Since he is a witch hunter, he manages to separate them easily with his equipment, which immediately calms the storm. It is revealed that witches still exist and are allowed to live alongside humans if they promise not to use the magic against them. Until now, Calder still serves the Axe and Cross and has the main task to keep peace between humans and witches. Upon arrival at New York, he catches up with his personal assistant and his only friend, the 36th Dolan, who will be retiring soon after fighting alongside him for 50 years. Calder presents him with an antique Waterman 402 pen. The 36th Dolan has also chosen a cool and modern young man to replace him as a Dolan. Since Calder is a very important asset for the Axe and Cross organization, he asks the young man to make a vow to watch out for him. After that, a mysterious bearded man is seen across the building as the 37th Dolan calls the taxi to return home. The next day, Calder receives a call that informs him that the 36th Dolan passed away peacefully last night. Because of that, the young man has now officially become a Dolan after completing the ceremony. The two immediately go to the apartment where the 36th lives to ensure the cause of the 36th Dolan's death. After a brief investigation, Calder can't find any magic presence in the room. Before he leaves, he comes across 3 dead insects scattered to each other and senses something suspicious. He then pours powder which reveals that the room has been completely cursed with dark magic. He then concludes that the 36 hours Dolan was murdered. Calder finds a notebook with blood stains and specific words and suspects the young man as a culprit. He shares to him that the burn wound on his hand was caused by the witches who set his house on fire. He also adds that Calder was the one who saved him from the incident. They then arrive at a very crowded bakery owned by Max, who uses magic in his cakes to draw customers. Max reveals that he sells the forbidden herb to someone who has a scent of arsenic on his body. With that information, Calder tells the 37th Dolan to go home since he is not qualified to face the opponent, and he decides to head to a funeral parlor alone. Upon arrival, he approaches a warlock in disguise of a little girl called Alec, who suddenly attacks him and runs away. He manages to chase after him and interrogates him. The warlock admits he did not kill Dolan. Calder brings him to a council of witches led by Glazer to determine his fate. Using the card, she concludes that Alec works alone. Proven guilty, they decide to feed him to a terrifying creature as a punishment. However, Calder still does not believe that he is the one who murdered his best friend. He goes to the 36th Dolan's body and eventually discovers that he is not dead, but cursed by an old-school black magic. He realizes that the only way to break the curse is to kill the warlock that casted the magic. He returns to the apartment and rereads the notebook. He discovers the message that Dolan left, ordering Calder to remember his past. Calder goes to a witch bar run by Chloe and he asks for a memory spell to remember his death. Chloe initially rejects the request, but she agrees to give him the spell after Calder states his intention to help a friend. He consumes a cherry that has been injected by a spell and Calder is suddenly brought back to the cursed woods. He enters it and sees his charred corpse laying on the ground. Unfortunately, before he can see any further, a bearded warlock from the real world named Belial pulls him out of the spell, preventing him from seeing further in the memory. Calder awakens, finding himself chained to the floor. He breaks his fingers to free himself and fights the warlock, but he is still under influence of the spell, causing him to hallucinate. As Belial sets the bar on fire to destroy all the memory spell and flees, Calder finally recovers from the spell and manages to escape from the bar. Later that night, Chloe wakes up in the apartment and suddenly dark forces begin to rip through the apartment's floor, absorbing her into the dark world. Fortunately, Calder arrives on time and manages to grab the witch's hand, rescuing her. She awakens again, this time in Calder's apartment. She blames the witch hunter for causing the destruction of her bar and her life. However, Calder still needs to see deeper in the memory to figure out the dark secret of his past. He promises Chloe to keep her safe if she wants to help him. Since all the ingredients in the bar are destroyed, she brings Calder to one of her friends' place, Miranda. Upon arrival, Chloe is shocked when she finds out her friend was killed and all the plants were taken. Left with no option, they go to a fashion show where Calder meets his old friend, Danique. She betrays him and casts a spell on him, causing him to be trapped in his old memories of his family. Using her ability, Chloe enters Calder's mind and attempts to wake him up. He returns to the real world and successfully eliminates all the guards within the room. They then interrogate Danique to find out what Belial's real motives are. Before they leave, Chloe crushes Danique's gem, exposing her real face. After that, Calder realizes that Chloe is a dream walker, meaning that she actually does not need memory potions to get into someone's mind. He manages to convince Chloe to help her since she is too afraid to use the hidden ability. In the first try, she takes both of them into Calder's memory to remember the day he was cursed by the Witch Queen. They find his charred body again, but this time, they jump further. They learn that the axe and cross know that Calder is still alive. The hunters attempt to destroy the witch's heart, but then realize that it will kill Calder too as he screams in pain. That's why Dolan decides to keep the heart, betraying Calder. He finally figures out Belial's real plan, which is to bring back the Witch Queen into life. On the other side, Belial manages to retrieve the heart and kidnaps Max, attempting to sacrifice him to the Witch Queen. Calder goes to the cathedral to equip himself with the axe and cross weapons. Calder arrives and finds Max held up by roots. Turns out that he has been possessed by the Witch Queen. Suddenly, Belial appears from behind, but Calder is prepared. He throws a dagger straight to his throat, immediately killing him. The Queen grabs Calder and retrieves the immortality, saying that he just carried it for her all this time. The Witch Queen is finally reborn now and attacks Calder with a swarm as she escapes from there. Calder returns home to find the 36th Dolan has finally reawakened. Realizing that the Witch Queen will cast a black plague curse and will release the other witches, Calder gives up and accepts the reality that humanity has lost the war. However, the old man is still optimistic and encourages Calder to do what he's always done best. After equipped himself with the legendary sword, Calder, Chloe, and 37th Dolan go to the plague tree where the swarm will be released after the spell is done. The Queen is also preparing to release the imprisoned witches. She uses Alec as a vessel to unleash the plague, so Chloe decides to get into his mind to stop the awakening. She fights Alec and manages to push him down to a hole, killing him instantly and stopping the chanting. Meanwhile, the huge creature, called the Sentinel, appears. They engage in a fight, but Calder manages to eliminate it easily. He runs deeper to find the Queen. She creates an illusional world where Calder fights her there. The world eventually fades away. Even though Calder is no longer immortal, he is still a decent hunter and outpowers the Queen. When he is about to blow his final strike, the 37th Dolan shows up while holding Chloe at gunpoint. The young man reveals that he is actually a witch, but without a magic power, and the witches Calder in his childhood killed were actually his parents. He then hands over Chloe to the Witch Queen, hoping that she will grant him magic in exchange. But, the Queen doesn't care and kills him right away. The Black Plague begins to spread across the world. While unconscious, Calder sees a vision of his family who motivates him to defeat the Queen. He uses the weather runes and continues fighting her. He hurls his legendary swords towards the witch's chest while also struck by the lightning bolts. The Witch Queen is finally defeated into ashes and he becomes immortal again. As her body crumbles, her heart is exposed again. Calder wants to destroy the heart and is ready to face the reality that he will die, but Chloe stops him and promises him that she will keep the heart safe. At the end of the movie, Calder tells the 36th Dolan that he will not serve the axe and cross anymore and begs the old man to work for him again. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.